Hello and welcome to this week's Loose Links. On tonight's show, we talk about a story about a police officer being punched by a parent for protection. As parents out there, what would you say? And do you think the law needs to be different when it comes to children? Also, we talk about animal abuse. Should it really be happening while we're in lockdown and we're at home? And we finish on a story about a child and their education and a mum suing the school. All that on today's show. Hello, keeping me company, Nicholas Jones, this Tuesday evening is Sandra Overton.
Hello.
Raven.
Hello.
And Katie Crown.
Yeah.
Hi, coming up on today's show, we talk about a woman attacking a police officer because he tried to arrest her son. So we talk about, is that fair, and would you do that as a parent? And would you copy your child in if they did something naughty? Also, the horrific stories still in today's news articles about animal abuse, even though we are all at home more. Is it acceptable? Let's see what the panel think. Also, we finished on a story about a mother suing a school for not acting up to her needs in education. Do we worry about education, and do we worry about our children going back to school? All that and a lot more coming up on this week's Loose Links. Good evening, panel.
Good evening.
Hi. Hey, you all right? A massive welcome to Katie Crown. She's our new panellist and just started yesterday with us, so she's been thrown at the deep end already as a cover panellist. So please welcome to the Loose Links family. I'm sure you'll be fine. I'm sure you'll be absolutely fine. So this week we're going to start off on your say, because as we say every single week, it's your show as well as ours. So we're going to start on last week's polls. So last week's polls, the first poll was about poverty and coping. Has there ever been a time in your life that you have struggled with poverty, and what has helped you through it or managed to get through it? So 48% of you said, I was lucky enough to have a family and friends around me. 30% of you say, I always see the light at the end of the tunnel. I'm quite a positive person. Nothing will knock me down. And 22% of you say, I'm looking back and I don't know how I coped. Do we have any comments on that poll at all, panel?
Yes, we have. The first one was from a Paul Leveridge, I hope I've got your name right. And he said he mostly agrees with the third opinion, but he often finds that seeing the light at the end of the tunnel is very difficult. And especially at the moment, in the times we're in at the moment.
Thank you for that, Paul. That's really important, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. Is there any more comments?
Yes, there was one from Tammy Hayes. She wrote, I'm usually in the third, but it's been very difficult.
I can understand that. Thank you for getting in touch with us, Tammy. Is there any other comments?
There was one from Kerry Gillespie. She said that she agreed with both Paul and Tammy, and that it's been difficult the past year because it's just been so unexpected, and she just wants to get back to a normal routine.
Yeah, I can understand that as well. Thank you for getting in touch with us, Kerry. Thank you very much. Remember, the polls are really important. And the second poll, I nearly forgot the second poll. There were no comments on the second poll, but we do have answers to it. In our show on Tuesday, we touched on the subject on parent guilt. Have you ever felt this with your children by saying no? How did you manage the situation, and what advice could you give to others? So 45% said, no, I stick by my decisions as a parent for a reason. 34% of you said, how will they learn if I allow them to do anything they wish at a young age? And 21% of you said yes, most definitely had some parent guilt. It's hard to say no to your child. Thank you for getting in touch. It's really important that you get in touch and have your say as well as ours. Keep commenting on the polls. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I think I've covered them all. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and TikTok. And remember that you can email us at looselinks@gmail.com. Have your say as well as ours. So tonight, panel, we start on quite a touchy subject. So I'm ready for a bit of backlash here. So let's see how we go. So our first topic this evening is about a woman attacking a police officer for trying to arrest her son. Now, because this is still quite an ongoing topic and the case isn't closed, I'm not going to announce the town that it's in, but I will tell the story. So the son punched and kicked the officer to the ground. So have you ever been scared of something your children have done, or have you ever been that person to stand up for them?
I think we've all stood up for our children when we know they're in the wrong. They're in the right, it's not them. But if they were in the wrong, no, I would expect them to take. The one thing I didn't get from this article was how old this child was.
I think all they've stated is that he's under the age of 18.
Right.
That's all they've stated. They haven't actually stated his age.
No.
But does it when obviously, Katie, you're not a parent, but maybe you've got siblings, maybe you've got cousins and stuff like that. Is there something that you can relate to this story?
In a sense, I guess. My brother was quite a little tea leaf when he was younger, and my mum found out about it, and the policeman that actually went and told her, she turned around and said, give him hell, take him down to the station, scare the life out of him. Just, shock him into not doing it again. So it's really showing how, parents' reaction to police officers has an impact on their child. Because, if you see your child in the wrong and then you do the exact same thing by attacking the police officer, what's that going to show them?
Exactly. No respect for the police, nothing. And also no consequences for their bad behaviour, for the crime that they've done. They've got to have, if they don't have any recriminations, any punishment, they're going to carry on offending.
Exactly.
What about you, Sandra?
Well, I think respect and discipline are the two main words. Respect particularly. I mean, we've only got to look at the recent situation that we've had of the crowds that have been and the no social distancing. The lack of respect for our police is appalling. I mean, when I was a child, and if I did anything wrong, my mother would say to me, I'll fetch a policeman. And I was terrified. If you saw a policeman, you were frightened. But not anymore. The respect has gone totally out of the window in every respect.
Did it? I'm talking to the parents on the panel at the moment. Sorry, Katie, just for a second. Did it scare you as your children became teenagers and were a bit more on the streets and a bit more talking to their friends and a bit more out at night? Did you ever fear of them falling into the wrong crowd or talking to the wrong people and maybe ending up in a way that you hadn't brought them up as?
I didn't know, because I don't want to blow my own trumpet, but I felt I'd brought my children up to respect, and they did. One of my daughters, particularly, if we had a discussion, even when she was married, she would say, I won't fall out with you. You are entitled to your opinion and I'm entitled to mine. And my children have always had respect for both Brian and I will say that.
And yes. I think that's it today. I think our children, we brought our children up and we were brought up to have respect.
Yes.
And there's a lot of them don't now, even from being very young, 5, 6, 7.
Yes.
They don't get the respect. They think they can answer back. They think they can chat back.
Yes. And
just sorry, Sandra, just Katie, let's get your view on this, only because you're sort of in that category. So do you agree with what the other two panelists are saying? Do you think that everybody has lost respect within your age group?
Not everybody.
No,
hold on, let her say. Hold on.
But I definitely have, been at school or in college or whatever, and I've been with people who have turned around to a policeman and said, "Oh, what are you going to do? You can't touch me," because they know that they can't because of their age, and they just think they can get away with everything. It's complete lack of respect for any sort of authority, generally in my age group as well.
And that youngster, when the police came to see his mum being aggressive and how she was to the policeman, that's not, he's just be thinking, oh, mum agrees, so, they can get away with it.
Yes.
He doesn't think he'll have consequences to it.
No.
I think I agree with you in the fact that the police aren't very scary anymore. When I was a kid, back in the day, I was afraid of the police. I was utterly afraid of the police. And I think even as an adult, I still am now, to be honest. I think to ever be in that, because I'm very one for watching, I don't know about you guys, I'm going off tangent here a little bit, but I'm very one for watching documentaries like Life on Death Row and stuff like that, because it's something I hope and pray I never experience. But it's just interesting, isn't it, to find out a lifestyle that do any of you get that? Do any of you find like the hidden life a bit interesting to watch on telly and find out what happens, or are you just dead against it?
No, I love it. I love watching what's it called? The one with the cars, and they follow all the cars around and stuff.
Yeah.
Seeing the body cams and just watching what they go through, because some of the stuff that people say is unbelievable.
What about you
also, you can't. They can't touch people like you used to. As you used to say, they would come and they would clip you around the ear. But the thing is, they can't touch you now because they're sued for this, they're sued for that. They're not allowed to do anything. Also, there's not enough of them. There's probably one and a PCO as well, or somebody, on their own, and they have to deal with it. They get so much flack and so much, abuse, really. And it's not, and again, this all comes down, I think, to respect.
Can I just say that I'll be voting Sue Craven as the next Prime Minister?
Don't want it, thank you.
No.
Do you think when it comes to children that the police should have a different approach? And when it comes to dealing and punishing children, do you think that parents should be more involved when it comes to that?
I think these days parents should be more involved with their children anyway, because there's far too much of mobile phones. You've only got to see people pushing a pram, and prams nowadays are backward facing. You don't face your child anymore. When I had my children, you pushed a pram and a pushchair. Well, the pushchairs sometimes were back, but prams now, you don't face your child, so you're not able to talk to it as you're going along. And there's so much swearing as well to children. I mean, I met my grandchild several years ago now. I met my grandchild from school, and they were 5 minutes late coming out for some reason. And there was a mother in the playground swearing, and I mean swearing, not just the odd thing. And I just turned to her and I said, I don't think you should be doing that in the playground. I don't want my grandchild open to that sort of language. And of course, you know what she told me to do. But parents do not. I wonder why people have children some days. I really do, because they don't read to a child anymore. It's put them in front of the TV, CBs, put that on, sit them in front of the television and entertain themselves. I mean, I've had a prime example with my great-granddaughter. And my great-granddaughter, I mean, I haven't seen her, sadly, for 9 months. I've seen her on FaceTime and what have you. And there was nothing more than she loved to sit on your lap and have a book read to her. She came last week and stood on the drive And she said, Granny, you tell me a story. She loves to be read to. But that's what's happening these days. Parents are not spending time with their children. They're in their bedrooms, left to their own devices, looking at all the social medias, what they can get away with. And I think that's why we're in the situation that we're in.
Well,
I'm an old-fashioned granny, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
Well, I agree to disagree there, because I don't think I do agree with some of the things that you said, but in the other respect, we can't categorise all parents into one.
Oh no, I don't mean. I didn't mean
no,
all,
and
but the majority.
And at the moment, I just feel. At the moment, I feel a lot of parents are doing that because they're juggling working from home and trying to educate their children at the same time, and homeschooling. So I think sometimes, and I'm not saying all the time because I disagree with it too, but sometimes that iPad for half an hour allows a parent to maybe get on with some work or entertain themselves a little bit.
But that's just what you've said. Half an hour.
Yes.
Half an hour, not all day. I've been doing some homeschooling by Zoom with a couple of children, and both of those are allowed 15 minutes before I start my lesson, and the timer goes off on the cooker or whatever, and then it goes off and they know that's their time. I do maths with one, literacy with another, and that's their time for me. That's a 4-year-old and a 5-year-old. Now that works brilliantly, but they let my grandchildren, they're allowed half an hour, they're allowed up to an hour a day. But the thing is, they can have it all in one go if they want, but then that's it. All they have at a half an hour and a half an hour.
Yes.
It's limiting.
What do you think? What do you think, Katie?
I mean, I've got a lot of friends that are parents. Not quite ready for that yet myself, but they all just tend to shove their children in front of an iPad or in front of a telly or anything, and it's like, what did we used to actually do before? Like when I was a kid, I used to go out and eat dirt, and that was my way of having fun. But now it's like, what they say that in about 20 years, the children born then won't actually have the capacity to be bored because they're going to be stimulated from birth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. So let's go back to the question, because nobody seems to answer the question very much. Do you think when it comes to maybe under 18, so we're talking, so it's your child under 18, they're done by the police, do you think they should be like an everyday adult and punished like an everyday adult? Or do you think the police need to be working more with the parents to say, right, what can we do about this? How can we do it? Do you think they should be given a little bit less leeway than a person that's over the age of 18?
They will have been. They will have been. They won't have been. They'll have gone in with a softly approach. They've probably rung them, might have even seen the parents beforehand, will have spoken the parents when the child's not there. They will have done. They won't have gone in heavy-handed.
No.
Very often, what you read in the press is not always how it is.
No, the media sometimes have a field day, don't they?
And you think a 16-year-old now or a 15-year-old, a 14-year-old is more like, my children weren't like they are nowadays.
No.
That's more like an 18-year-old. And if they're giving you a load of abuse, you don't sit there and take it. You have to reprimand and what have you.
Definitely. Sue, I've got to tell you, aren't you very talkative tonight?
Aren't I? It's not like me. I'll be
Yes, I thought, yeah.
You're on it, aren't you, tonight? You're very on it.
Well, I feel passionate about that because, like Sandra said, I feel very passionate because I feel it's this respect.
Yeah,
this,
definitely.
For all authority, really. And I think parents are too soft. They, yes, no, you can't do it. Then they let them. And so that's half the problem now.
So the only way to shut Sue Craven up is to have your say. So make sure that you talk to us and tell us what you think. See if you agree with Sue, Katie, or Sandra. Let us know your opinion. There is one more question. Would you ever... So I'm going to put you all in a situation here. Katie, I want you to imagine that you've had a child and this child is like 16, 17, and they come to you and they say, Mum, I need to talk to you about something. And you go, yeah, okay. And perfect example, just out the top of my head. I won't say actually, I've done something to break the law. Would you march your child down to the police station?
If I felt it warranted it, yes.
You would.
Yes. The
And
punishment
you
was
would make sure they got there. You would make sure
Yes.
they got there.
Yes. If they were under 18, yes. Because you're responsible for your child. In my book, you are
Definitely.
responsible for your child until it's an adult.
Definitely. What about you, Sue?
I'm the same. I'm with Sandra.
You
I
would march your child down.
Okay. Yeah.
Katie, what about you? Would you march your child down to the police station?
Well, everyone says, oh, when I'm a parent, I'm going to be perfect. So I can't really, maybe, but I'd probably sit them down and be like, okay, well done for, fessing up and telling me the truth. And if it was just like they nicked a chocolate bar or something, I'd probably take away their iPad for a week or something. But if they were like, oh, I just went out and stabbed somebody, I'd be like, well, off you go. Please stay
Yeah.
yeah.
It's difficult. I suppose it's difficult when it comes to your own kids, isn't it? It's really difficult because you want to protect them, but actually you can't wrap them up in bubble wrap. You can't do it. And if they make a mistake, they've got to own up to that. But that was a really hot debate. Actually, I really enjoyed that conversation. Thank you very much, panel. But make sure you have your say. We will have a poll up there. Would you support your child? Would you march your child down to the police station? Also, do you think youngsters have lost a lot of respect these days? Have your say. Let us know. It's your show as well as ours. Moving on, we talk about the town of Skegness. Good evening, Skegness. As we talk about something that keeps coming up, and this isn't just based in Skegness, it's all over Lincolnshire at the moment, but there was an article on Skegness. More and more stories are coming out about animals being abused, such as animals being mistreated and even being abandoned. Can we excuse this? For one reason, I ask, because we're in a time of lockdown at the moment. Do you think this is even more not excusable to abuse or abandon an animal?
I don't personally think there's any excuse for doing anything to an animal. No. Not in my book.
Do you find it, what I'm trying to say is, do you find it even more shocking because we are stated and told at the moment to stay at home? So we're at home a lot more. We're with that animal a lot more. And I'm not saying for 1 second I understand it when we're in normal times. I don't understand it. But how can animals still be abused when we're at home 24/7? I can't get that into my head.
I can't get into my head how anybody could abuse an animal.
No. What about you, Kate?
I can't stand cats, but I wouldn't hurt one. No.
What was you going to say, Katie?
I was just going to say, I agree with Sandra. There is absolutely no excuse to hurt an animal. But through the first lockdown, you could see that there was such a demand for pets because everyone was at home, and the prices shot up of puppies and kittens and all animals because everybody wanted one. But then when they started going back to work, they realized, I don't actually have time to take my husky out for 2 walks a day for 15 miles. So it's not, I don't find it surprising. I find it very disappointing, but what were they going to do with all these pets in the first place?
Yeah.
What do you think, Sue? Tell us what
I agree. I totally agree. I think there's no excuse again for cruelty and neglect and things like that. As Katie said, yes, a lot of people got pets. As somebody lives near me and they got this pet and they'd researched it, but didn't think about when they were both back at work and how much it would cost for doggy daycare. And I said, well, you knew you were getting this puppy. And the thing is, so people don't think into it, but these ones we've seen just recently, I mean, they really have been abused and neglected. I mean, and that would have been going on before lockdown, that would. I'm sure.
I think it's gone on. I do think, in a way, people are making this lockdown and COVID, they're making an excuse of it, really. A lot saying, well, it's because of lockdown. I think all these things have gone on. But again, as Sue said previously, what you read in the papers and the media, they just personify it all, don't they?
They do.
They do.
And it's the worst of everything, isn't it? And we've talked about this on social media as well. It's the worst. It's the worst cases of stories, isn't it, of abuse and stuff like that. But I think I completely agree with you. If you're going to have an animal, especially at a time now, I think this is why it got me so wild up, because I just think there's no excuse. I agree with you, Sandra. There's no excuse to abuse an animal at all. No. But where's your excuse when we're all stuck at home? Do you know what I mean? Where that animal is there. That's what I don't get in my head at all. Do you think maybe thinking about getting an animal, there should be some kind of system that you have to go through by law? So people have to come out and see if you, and I know I'm not talking about rescue kennels and stuff like that. I know there's a set routine to get an animal and they come around and see if you're matched with that. But do you think that should happen in any kind of animal buying?
Well, I think it does, doesn't it?
Not always.
Well, if you don't buy a dog from a rescue, you're buying, you're buying a good breed of dog where you are vetted. I mean, my granddaughter's just had 8 puppies and they've got rid of them. Oh, they've sold them, I should say, not got rid. That doesn't sound very nice, does it? They've sold them. They were pedigrees. But they went to the homes and looked to where they were going to go before they actually went. I mean, I did think there was some rule of thumb. Perhaps there are. I mean, like everything, there's a loophole.
There is.
We know, I mean, there was a couple of years ago, there was a puppy farm close to Boston somewhere, wasn't there, that had got dogs under horrendous conditions. So, but I think mostly it's all kept under wraps and vetted. But the problem is people, it's like they say, a dog isn't for Christmas, it's for life.
For life,
animal is for life.
Yeah.
And they get the puppy, they buy the puppy for the child. It's lovely while it's a puppy, but when it starts to get bigger and it needs walking and it needs exercise, it needs to be fed. I mean, I've got a granddaughter who can't hardly afford to feed herself, but she's got a dog and a cat. She feeds those. So, but she wouldn't ill-treat one. I mean, she's going to be a vet, so she's very much into animals. But I think it's very sad. I mean, I cannot understand the mentality of anyone who would want to hurt an animal.
What do you think, Katie?
Difficult.
I think that if people want a pet, or if a child comes up to you and wants a pet and they're 10 and they say, Mum, I want a doggy, you got to be like, okay, well, a dog lives for 10 to 15 years. What are you going to do with the dog when you're going to school? What are you going to do with the dog when you go to university or move out? Make sure that they understand what they're getting themselves into.
Yes.
The same with people. I think that, maybe you should wait 2 years to see if you can get a rescue dog first. And then after you've shown that you can't get a rescue dog, then you can get like a brand new puppy, because that's what everybody wants. But what about the thousands of animals that are sitting in shelters? Hard.
See, again, I feel like the grump on the panel a bit again this evening, only because I disagree, Sandra, because not everybody, there isn't a system. There isn't a system. Anybody can put an animal on Facebook and say, it costs this much, come and pick it up, take it home. Now, I'm saying it could happen either way. So I've known a couple of people, won't mention the names on camera, but I've known a couple of people that picked up an animal from Facebook where it's not been vetted or anything like that, and a couple of weeks later they're left in thousands of pounds of animal vet bills, or they're making the decision to have that animal put down because they hadn't been treated right before they came to them. But it happens the opposite way around. So you can get an animal off Facebook, they take it, it's been absolutely fine, they take it home, mistreat it, and eventually it dies or it happens, but it happens out there. But there's nothing. I think the rescue kennels are the absolute best. Now, if I was Prime Minister, which is never going to happen, but if I was Prime Minister, I would be saying, I'm taking all animal selling off. It's against the law. And the only way that you can get an animal is doing it by the proper way. So going to a rescue centre or going to where they can vet you, where they can come and look at your house. Are you suitable for an animal? But not everywhere happens like that. And that's where you hear sad stories.
I agree.
Go on,
but you've got to not, it's like I would never, I don't think any of us here would ever buy an animal off Facebook. You'd go to a reputable breeder. Or as you say, I'd go to a rescue home. I would.
Yes.
But if you wanted a pedigree, you'd go to a reputable. My son's they've just bought a pug, and they did loads of research. The lady didn't come, but she zoomed theirs to have a look at theirs. They went over to look at the kennels from the outside. It was about 8 weeks before they were all decided, and that was done properly.
Yeah, exactly. But it's so easy done, isn't it? So you can pick up a dog from. I remember about a year ago, this man just standing on the street corner saying, "Do you want this dog?" And somebody. Say again.
Sure, he wasn't stolen, because that's what's been happening.
Well, I know, and that's the other thing. That's the other thing. You just don't know, do you? So my advice to anybody out there, if you're thinking about an animal or you're thinking about getting an animal, go down the right routes. Go to a rescue kennel. Go where you know you're going to get the advice, where they can come and see if you're suited for an animal, because for a certain reason you might not be. But yeah, that's our advice. We will put some rescue kennels on our Facebook page, so you can have a look if you're interested and stuff like that. But please do it by the proper routes. Tell us as well your stories at home. If you had an unexpected incident with an animal where you've taken an animal on and it's cost you thousands of pounds, or you've had to put that animal down. Or have you struggled or bought an animal from a different place? Or tell us about the rescue centre rescued animals. If you rescued one from home, tell us about the system that you had to go through. My final question on animal cruelty is that if I had a child and one day if I had a child and I mistreated that child, social services will get involved. They will come in and they will get involved. Now, social services, let me say now, and anybody can disagree with me out there that works for social services, or maybe you, Sue, because you work in education, but I've always been told social services, their last resort is taking the child off the parent.
It is.
Very, very last resort. But if I was mistreating a child and carried on to mistreat a child, social services would do something about that. There's not much of a system for animals, though, is there?
No,
there's not much system for animals. How do you feel about that, Katie? Do you think there should be a system in place?
I mean, there are laws, it's actually illegal to intentionally mistreat an animal. If you just don't know what you're doing and you've just left your dog outside for whatever and they've just run away, then you probably aren't breaking the law. But at the end of the day, if someone is breaking the law, who's going to be the one that tells the police? Because, who can see that kind of stuff? It's not like a child that goes to school and can tell somebody, or maybe someone will notice. It's just that animals are left to suffer. If you've
difficult.
got a pet.
Don't you agree as well that it's difficult if you're a neighbour and you're reporting somebody that's a neighbour? Because then you've got the fear of that neighbour finding out it's you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you're always on that difficult line, aren't you? But surely there's just got to be something in place to save them, because I don't get it. That to me, children and animals, yes, I know are different, but it's still abuse. Either way, it's still abuse. And I just can't. There's the RSPCA, the stuff like that, and I just think that if we took that system into place, where you had to be vetted, where you had to come and have a look at your home, where you had to do this, RSPCA wouldn't be so bombarded with animals, because actually you've got to pass certain tests. If you adopt a child, it's the same, isn't it? If you want to go for an adoption or fostering or anything like that, it's weeks and weeks of
months, a year.
Exactly.
Yes.
Anyway, tell us what you think, because it's quite an interesting topic. So have our discussion. Right, Sue, I think you're ready for this story as well, because it's all about education.
I'm keeping quiet.
I'm calling it. We're not calling it Loose Lincs anymore. We're calling it the Craven. Our final story, there has been again, it's in Lincolnshire, can't mention the town unfortunately, but there's been a story shared this week where a mother has been given money because how her daughter has been treated with the education system, not adapting to her needs and not preparing to help. So the school had to pay a lot of money in compensation. Do you think Do you think teachers and teaching staff need to be more educated when it comes to stuff like illness, mental health, and SEN children? Go on, Sue. Go on. Start us off. Do you think we need to be more educated?
No.
You don't?
Because I think we are educated, but the problem is there isn't the money. There's not the funding, there's not the teaching assistants, there's not you can have people, it seems a bit better in secondary, but in infant and primary education, you just can't get the staff in to help and cope with these sort of children. There just isn't the money in the school budgets. I'm not saying that they're not at fault, because they are. I've been to many, many tribunals and appeals with parents to get their child moved into a school for with children with special needs, but it's the fault. And like that parent suing, yes, it won't come out of the school's budget, it'll come out of the education's budget, and that's being it's being stretched and stretched.
It's all about
before I jump on the bandwagon, what do you think, Sandra?
Well, I agree with Sue. It's at the end of the day, it's like lots of things. It's all about money, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It's not easy, and it's difficult for the staff, really.
Katie, what about your view?
Well, I was classed as an SEN child when I was at school, and I've had teachers that have been, first aiders, parents, a shoulder to cry on, and it's like they can only do so much, especially when there could be like 10 SEN children to one teacher, and they got to try and keep on top of all of them. It's not their fault, is it? It's the fact that they can't get the money, they can't get the staff, they can't win in either direction, can they?
Well, yeah. So I'm on the fence about this, because I'll admit as well, Katie, I was an SEN child, and what I found shocking, I think the most is that it was high school. I won't mention the high school, but it was high school. I was going into a classroom and a teacher would look confused at me of why I wasn't picking stuff up. And then I would say, and this is going back a few years, so I hope the education system's changed, and so you can say something to this as well. But I would say, because I'm borderline autistic, borderline Asperger's syndrome, and I would say, oh, I've got Asperger's, and the teacher would go, and what's that? And that used to scare me. That used to make me think, you're not even aware of the condition. You're not even, and I get money, and I get a budget, and I get all of that. But instead of training up a load of teachers in one place and it costing thousands of pounds, why don't you train up one member of staff that could train in that area, and then they give out training to the rest of the staff? And it's just, I'm talking about basic things. So the basic SEN system, what disabilities they are, what they mean, what they stand for, what they say. So because it's really daunting as a kid when you're coming in and explaining to a teacher what Asperger's syndrome is. And you just think, how can you not know this? I was talking to teachers that was teachers for years. I'm not saying that this was a newly qualified teacher coming in. This is somebody, and do you find that shocking? Does that still happen today, Sue?
No, I don't think it does, because I think they're more aware now. You know, when you were going through, it was just, there wasn't as much autism. It wasn't diagnosed as early, and it was more of a struggle. I mean, I'm not saying with this girl that the school didn't fail her, because there must have been something, because there wouldn't have been a ruling to give her the money that she's been given. And, you know, there must have been something. But the thing is, you know, most do try. And the thing is, it's the parents as well behind them, because if you've got a parent that, say, hasn't got not the knowledge, but hasn't got the fight in, if they've got enough of a fight caring for that child.
No, I think it is knowledge, Sue. I think you're right. I think it is knowledge. Completely.
You know, and they can't, and somebody brushes them off. I've had this with so many parents, and they've contacted me, they've said, oh, so-and-so said, well, there's nothing they can do. And I've said, well, we go back, we say they can, and then eventually you get them into the school they need to be. But it's a heck of a fight, and you have to have somebody with you or have that guts to be able to do that. And most people haven't. They've got enough to do to cope with that child at home and, you know, the rest of their family working, whatever. It's hard.
Did it take, you don't have to tell us, Katie, you can tell us to mind our own business live on camera, but did it take them long to diagnose you with whatever you have?
Well, I started going to CAMS when I was about 8 or 9, and then I finally got diagnosed by the time I was 11. So it was a bit of a while, but yeah, they just thought I had ADHD at first, and then they moved on to autism. And then only a few weeks ago, they changed it again to borderline personality disorder and bipolar, and they're just chucking all these names at me now. I don't know what's going on, but yeah.
I think we were close to meet, because I think nearly every diagnosis that you've said I've got. So we just like to read. Sandra, what's your opinion?
Well, I think, like Sue said, years ago, these things didn't happen. I mean, not so very long ago, my grandson's 21 now, up to being 11, he was at a primary school, and the teacher used to say to my daughter, he needs a hearing test, he's deaf. I've had to move him from the class, he's got to sit at the front, he says he can't see the board, or he doesn't understand the blackboard. You'll have to have his eyes tested. So my daughter went through all of this, and then she took him to a craft fair, and he was doing some colouring on a stall. And the lady who owned the stall said to my daughter, she said, oh, you know, your son's dyslexic, isn't he?
Wow.
And my daughter said, don't think so. Oh, yes, she said, I think he is. And she took him to, they poo-pooed it here. She took him to a professor in Lincoln, and he said, yes, he was dyslexic. Wow. And he is. And I used to say to him here, I used to say, will you do so-and-so and so-and-so, and then do something else and something else? And he would come back to me and say, what did you say, Granny? And I used to say to him, you're not listening to Granny. I said, so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so. And he can only cope with 2 things. Yeah. You ask him to do 3 things.
Processing.
He can't retain the 3rd thing. No. And he writes. If he writes on, he's better now, but he used to write no.
Reverse it,
yeah. If you asked him to write no, he reversed it. And of course, then they introduced coloured paper. And of course, they get help with laptops and things when they get to secondary school. But they don't get any help until they get to secondary school. So we're back to what Sue said previously. There isn't the money to help out with the formative years. Because let's be fair, your primary school is your formative years.
Well, the thing is, I completely agree with you, Sandra. I'm quite happy to share that I've known Mrs. Craven for a very, very long time, and she worked with my sister in when she first started school, and I got to know Sue in that way. And Sue supported my mum needed a lot of support when I was young. She needed a hell of a lot of support. She still does today. And you remember, Sue, don't you? It took them 10 years to diagnose me as autistic because I wasn't that textbook autistic.
No.
And that's where they were struggling. That's where they were going. Well, he's clearly not autistic because he can talk to people, they can do good eye contact, he can do this, that, and the other, and he's ticking all the boxes. And do you think, I'm going to change the question a bit, do you think the education system is still a little bit like that we're still by textbook when it's diagnosing?
I think it's hard for people like teachers who maybe haven't experienced mental health themselves. They're trying to look out for these text box examples, and when they can't see it in black and white, they may struggle to be like, it doesn't click in their head. They might be, oh, I see what's going on here. I think
and every case must be different, mustn't it? Every person, we're all made up of the same things: brains, eyes, nose, lips. We've all got those, but the four of us here, we've all got those features, but we're all different. You can't, everybody, it's all different, isn't it?
Yeah.
There aren't two, apart from twins, of course. But even they have different fingerprints, don't they?
Yeah,
your man with the big yacht, is he all different as well?
Sorry?
Your man with the big yacht, is he all different as well?
Oh, it would be, wouldn't he? No, he'd got to be old. No, he'd be wrinkly. He's got to be old. He's got
Gary
to be
even brought that up in the last show. Gary even, it's never going to be forgotten. It's never going to be forgotten.
That's going to be my swan song, isn't it?
Yeah. So what do you think? Because Sue's still in the education system, do you think we're still very much by textbook these days?
No, I think things are happening. They are happening earlier now, but I think a lot of it is, as I say, it comes down to money. The Senko used to be a Senko, so she's the special educational needs coordinator, and she probably didn't do anything else. Now she'll have a class of 30 odd children, have to do that, an assessment, and be a Senko. So unless you get somebody who's really, and there are a lot, I'll tell you, in Lincolnshire there are some good ones, but they have to go to special meetings, they have to go to attend conferences and things like that, and plus the teaching, a lot of it's time and it's budget. And it is budget, and I'm not saying they're all, and I bet they did fail this girl, because I've seen the schools that have failed children. I mean, eventually it's worked out, but I know of a little child who was in mainstream. I had him in nursery, got him diagnosed, said right, he needs to go to special school. Parents said no, mainstream. Went to mainstream, absolutely floundered, awful. School kept saying no, he was doing fine. We had conferences. He was going up to junior school, and it meant him moving to a different site. He just wouldn't have coped. Anyway, in the end, we went to appeal and we went to panel, and I went, and the child went to a special school. And the thing is, he is just flourishing, writing, reading, happy, but it was such a fight with that. And there's lots of people out there fighting now. And some of them, as I say, his mum and dad would have given up because they felt they'd had enough. School saying, oh, he's reaching all the targets, he's doing this. He clearly wasn't, and this is what happens. And I think I can see that mum. She's probably felt the child, I mean, we don't know what was wrong with the girl and things, but there certainly must have been something. But then I don't know whether I would have sued, you see, but then that's up to her.
If you are going through this at the moment and you are watching and you are furious with any of our debates, please join in. Let us know how the struggle.
Oh dear.
Struggle has been for your child. Let us know. Panel, I'm gonna finish on a really sensitive question, and this might not be easy for any of you, so be prepared. With illness, I'm talking about illness now, so we're completely going off topic and we're going down personal road here. With illness, have you ever had a scare, or do you know somebody that's really, really close to you that's had a scare or near to death experience?
No, I can't say I have really. Not in my book. No,
No, you haven't.
not of illness. No.
Okay. What
Been
about
very
you?
lucky.
What about you, Katie? Have you ever had to go down dark roads?
With mental or physical or all illness?
About both, either.
Definitely had my few fair shares of scares. I lost my mum when I was 16, and then my own mental health sort of went in the toilet. But yeah, my nan was a nurse, so I've just I've learned to get used to it.
Did you find resilience and ways to cope for your own on your own, or did you get support to do that?
I'd like to say that I did it all by myself, but I actually took a network of people that actually pulled me through one of the hardest times in my life. My nan, teachers, therapists, loads of help, and I'm not ashamed to say it.
Do you feel like oh my word, we need to meet up for coffee. Do you feel like you're in a better place today? Do you feel like more resilient and more built up, is it still very rocky and up and down?
I definitely get my bad days, but as a whole, I genuinely feel like I can deal with most things now because I've just learned how to cope with stuff. Because before it was just like constantly building on rocky foundations, everything was falling off, it was going awful. And then, once you learn how to cope with this kind of stuff, then you start to build it up and up. Your confidence goes up and up.
Yeah. What about you, Sue? Have you ever had to experience?
Yeah, I have. Losing a son-in-law very, very suddenly. At 29 he was. And the thing is, seeing my daughter, she came to live with us. Though she's married, she came to live with us for 10 months, and it was a rocky road. But I think we've got through it. It's been the 10-year anniversary, and you learn, as Kate says, and I think you also learn that it's all right sometimes not to be all right.
Yeah.
So if you're feeling, let it go. I say this, just let it go. Because however, as Katie said, I don't know how old you are now, but you look beautiful and you look young. But, if you lost your mum, I don't know how many years ago, but it doesn't matter. It could be 20 years. It could be whatever. And if you're feeling, let it go. Ring up somebody and say, oh, I need to talk, or, I need something. Oh, my battery's going.
I think, Kate, you sound, from what you've gone through, you sound very confident and are very positive. You've obviously had a positive outlook, and I think that's a credit to you. I think to agree with Sue, whoever you lose, I mean, I lost my father, 20 some years ago, but I still miss him. And you lose somebody, you never forget that you've lost somebody. And I think to lose your mother at a young age, that must be devastating. But there's credit to you, Kate. You look very confident and very positive person. So credit to you.
And I think you've got to live for her as well.
Yes.
Live for her.
She was only 36 when she passed. So, she had so much time to go and see the world. And now I'm going to go do it for her.
Good for you. That's it. And she'll be with you every bit of the way.
Yes. Yes.
Oh my word, I think I nearly cried then. I think I was just on the verge of a tear then. Katie, thank you so much for sharing that really personal story. It was really lovely. And Sue, thank you. It doesn't matter how long it's been, the time difference. I was told that grief, because I lost my grandma in 2004, and it was like losing my left arm when I lost her. And I've still got a picture of her in my front room. And there are days still, like she died in 2004, and there are days still where I cry about her, and I say, we're going to go miss her. And it's really weird because I'll go out the front door in the morning as she's in my front room on the wall, and as I close the door, I go, look after the house, Grandma. I'll see you later.
Yes.
So I still talk to her, and I come in and I go, hello, have you had a lovely day? Has it been nice today? I still like to. So it's almost like she's protecting my house all the time. She's there all the time. thank you for this evening. Oh my word, absolutely. Do you know, it's been a pleasure to be on the panel this evening. It's been really, really lovely to hear some of the stories that you have shared and how personal. Sue, I did take the mick out of you a little bit, but I've got to say, you are massively improving as a panelist. I remember right at the beginning you were as silent as a mouse and wouldn't say very much, and it's great that you're speaking out and talking out, because that's
can't shut me up now, can you?
Can we just say amazing first show for Katie?
Yes,
absolutely incredible.
Yes.
You're stuck with us now. You can't get rid of us now, Katie. You're stuck with us.
Your mum would have been proud of you.
She would have been. She would have been. Join us next week. As always, we're back with a panel of 4. I won't reveal who that 4 is, but come and join us as there's lots more chat, debate, and conversations that you can get your teeth into. But can you thank my panel for this evening joining me, Nicholas James, for Sandra Overton.
Bye.
Sue Craven.
Bye.
And Katie Crown.
Bye.
See you next week. Take care. Good night. God bless. Good night.